So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Bureau for Private Post-Secondary Education's August Advisory Committee meeting. First, we need to, we need to take a quorum, or to establish a quorum, take roll call and establish a quorum. So let's do that first. I can do that, or if there's a moderator who can help me with that, we can do that too, either way.
Richie, are you able to help with that?
Yes, I can call roll.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lee Farron.
Present.
Tess Dubois-Carey.
Present.
Robert Boykin.
Present.
Kansen Chu.
Here.
Melanie Delgado.
Present.
Joseph Holt.
Present.
Robin Smith.
Present.
Tracy Tambasia, but believe she's absent, and that gives us a quorum.
Wonderful. Thanks, Richie. Today's meeting, as usual, will be run according to the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act and the Brown Act. So under the new updated Bagley-Keene rules, advisory committee members are required to visibly appear on camera during this meeting. If you're not able to be visible for technology problems, whatever, please let us know for the reason why you can't appear when the camera is turned off. Since again, we were hoping to be in person, but for various reasons, we had to continue on WebEx for this meeting. Since we are on WebEx, for all advisory committee members and actually speakers as well, please announce yourself by name before speaking, just to help the official record. All advisory committee members should be able to unmute themselves to speak during the meeting, and please place yourself back on mute when not speaking to reduce background noise for all participants. We will ensure that all comments from advisory committee members and speakers are heard before going forward with the agenda. The advisory committee welcomes public comments on any item on the agenda, and the committee will ask for public comments on each agenda item prior to any potential action being taken. During each agenda item, we will allow for comments both through WebEx and through the in-person space at the Bureau. And there will be instructions on how to make a comment at that time. The host will then call on you and you will have 3 minutes to make a public comment. After the 3 minutes have lapsed, we will place you back on mute, or we will end your time if you are in person. Only one public comment per agenda item is allowed per attendee. So those are the rules. Regarding public comment, do please stay on topic and keep your comments the allotted time or less. If there's a question for the advisory committee or the Bureau, questions can be submitted via email to bppe@dca.ca.gov. As a reminder to attendees and to committee members and staff, we are not allowed to engage with public comment. We're not allowed to answer any questions. Those questions need to be submitted via email. And I think that's everything for the introduction. So the second item on the agenda is public comments for items not on the agenda. So this is attendees' opportunity to make a comment on anything that is not on the agenda. So moderator, if you could help me with opening public comment on WebEx and also checking for in-person public comment.
All right, this is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment for items not on the agenda, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. And while we wait for public comment on WebEx, I just want to confirm if there is any public comment in the El Dorado room.
No comment.
sounds like, is there any request for public comment on WebEx?
No comment from this room.
Okay,
I apologize. It appears there's no public comment on WebEx right now.
that's what I expected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 3, which is review and approval of the May 15th, 2024 advisory committee meeting minutes. So these are the minutes from the meeting. I hope everyone has had a chance to review them. Are there any comments or corrections from the members, the committee members? Okay, hearing none.
This
Go
is
ahead.
Kansen Chu, and I
Yes.
was absent in the last meeting, so I will abstain voting on this item.
Okay, thank you, Kansen. Okay, then I will open the queue for public comments on agenda item number 3, the review and approval of the May 15th, 2024 advisory committee meeting minutes. We will check both in person and on WebEx.
All right, this is the moderator. Just wanted to confirm if there is still any public in the El Dorado room.
No comment from the Eldorado room.
All right, perfect. And then for our members on WebEx, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and seeing no request for public comment, would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you. Okay. After comment, do I have a motion to approve the May 15th, 2024 advisory committee minutes?
This is
So
Tess.
moved.
I'll make a, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I would move to approve the minutes as written.
Thank you, Joseph.
And I'll go ahead and second. This is Tess.
Thank you, Tess. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Let's go through the voting. I can call myself. Lee Farron, aye. Tess. I can't hear you. I don't know why, but maybe others can. Maybe that's just me.
Couldn't hear her either. It looked like she was
Okay.
speaking though.
I know, that's what I thought. I know you seconded. We just have to vote.
So at this point, sorry.
There you go. Just
Is
need
this-
an aye or nay.
Yes, I. Robert?
Thank you.
Hi.
Kansen's abstaining. Melanie?
Aye.
Joseph?
Yes.
Robin?
I.
Tracy? Oh, she's absent. Sorry. Gotta keep myself straight. Okay, great. Motion passes. The minutes for May are approved. We will move on to agenda item 4, which is remarks by a representative of the Department of Consumer Affairs.
We have Karina Moreno here to join us for that.
Welcome, Karina.
Good morning. My name is Karina Moreno of the California Department of Consumer Affairs. Thank you for the opportunity to join you today. On behalf of the department, I would like to thank you all for serving to protect the public. Budget Letter 2420, Vacancy Savings and Position Elimination. The Department of Finance, DOF, has issued Budget Letter 2420, implementing the governor's proposal to reduce the state workforce by 10,000 positions and $1.5 billion. DCA's budget office is working closely with each board and bureau to identify appropriate reductions while maintaining the mandate for consumer protection. The final budget reduction plan will need to be approved by agency and ultimately DOF. The budget reduction will be effective starting in 2024, 25 and ongoing, while the position elimination will be effective starting in 2025 and 26 and ongoing. The reductions will impact DCA boards and bureaus. DCA will share further information and guidance from the Department of Finance as it becomes available. Governor's Appointments Office update. Deputy Appointment Secretary Mary Valdez Singh was appointed Deputy Commissioner of the Legislation at the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation. She worked closely with the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency, DCA, boards and bureaus on board and advisory committee appointments. Her last day with the Appointments Unit was July 5th. Going forward, Deputy Appointment Secretary Curtis Lang will oversee the Healing Arts Boards, and Assistant Deputy Appointment Secretary Aubrey Anthony will oversee the non-healing arts boards. Boards and bureaus should continue working with board and bureau relations on their appointment needs. We wish Mary well in her new role and look forward to working with Curtis and Aubrey. Updated workplace violence prevention policy and new training requirement. SB 553 is a new law that became effective in January. SB 553 amended the California Labor Code to require California employers to develop and implement a workplace violence prevention plan and train all employees by July 1st, 2024. As a result of this new law, DCA updated its current workplace violence prevention policy to include all requirements of SB 553. DCA also developed an annual workplace violence prevention training that is located on DCA's learning management.
We lost Karina for a moment.
Give her a minute to see if she can make it back.
Sounds good. Don't really want to move on since 5 gets into the meat of the agenda. So I'd rather we get through this if we can. So it might be awkward, but I might give us an extra minute or two to see if we can get her back.
I think that seems like a reasonable proposition. Our first section in 5 should be pretty brief. So if we do decide it makes sense to move forward. I see Karina here.
I see her.
Uh-oh.
Karina, we lost you for the last couple of minutes.
Oh no.
Yeah, the last thing we heard was the new workplace violence prevention training on LMS.
Okay. So you guys received the deadline for that, correct?
It wasn't said. I know what it is because I got the email, but it wasn't said out loud in the meeting.
Okay, it says this new training must be completed by August 30th, 2024. If you have any questions or need assistance accessing LMS, please contact Board and Bureau Relations. Next is the Board Member Orientation Training, BMOT, October 22nd, 2024. Board members must complete Board Member Orientation Training, also known as BMOT, within 1 year of appointment or reappointment. On October 22nd, 2024, BMOT will be offered virtually. This will be the last training of the year, and members can register for this training via LMS. Licensing Resources Webinar for Military Service Members and their families. On July 31st, DCA participated in a virtual military licensing webinar hosted by Navy Region Southwest. The webinar showcased DCA military licensing resources to active duty military veterans and military spouses throughout California and Nevada Navy bases. DCA's Deputy Director of Communications provided an overview of licensing resources, and DCA's Deputy Director of Information Services provided a demonstration of the Federal Professional License Portability and State Registration online portal. DCA received positive feedback and looks forward to continuing its partnerships with the military community. DEI update. DCA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion DEI Steering Committee met on July 26, 2024. The meeting included discussion on DEI training, development of a workforce development survey from a DEI perspective, expanding language access and DEI activities for inclusion in the DCA's annual report. This is the second year the DEI committee is memorializing the department's DEI activities in an annual report, which is provided to the administration and the legislature. This year's report will include DCA-specific updates on training, outreach, language access, and tools and resources created for staff, and will also highlight board and bureau accomplishments. I'm pleased to share a few examples of DEI-related activities completed by the boards. To further expand public input and access, the Acupuncture Board released its strategic planning survey in 4 languages: English, Spanish, Chinese, and Korean. 75% of those surveys were completed in a language other than English. The California State Athletic Commission extended an existing agreement and executed 2 new agreements with tribal nations to regulate combat sports on tribal land and ensure participant safety. The Medical Board of California administers the Mexico Pilot Program, which allows up to 30 physicians licensed in Mexico who specialize in family practice, internal medicine, pediatrics, obstetrics, and gynecology to practice in California for up to 3 years. In 2023, 9 additional physicians were licensed under the Mexico Pilot Program, reaching the 30 physician threshold. The Contractor State Licensing Board translated 10 examinations commonly taken by candidates in Spanish, including the law and business examination that is required of all applicants. For all the trade examinations and languages, accommodations are made for applicants to be joined by the approved translator during the examination. The annual report will be available early next year and will be shared with your bureau chief. The next DEI committee meeting is October 25th, 2024. If you have ideas you'd like the committee to consider, please share them with your bureau chief. Lastly, phishing alert. As a reminder, boards are urged to continue to be vigilant and cautious of potential phishing attempts and deceptive emails, texts, and calls to trick individuals into revealing sensitive information or installing malicious software. If you suspect any phishing attempt or encounter a suspicious email, please report it immediately to your bureau chief or DCA's Office of Information Security, OIS. This helps us take swift action to protect everyone. Again, thank you for the opportunity to join you today. I'm happy to answer any questions from the advisory committee. If further information or assistance is needed with any of the items shared today, please don't hesitate to reach out to Board and Bureau Relations.
Thanks, Karina. Any questions or comments from advisory committee members? Okay, it looks like we are all good. Are there any, now we'll move on to public comment for agenda item 4. Any public comment for remarks by a representative, Karina, of the Department of Consumer Affairs? It feels so inhuman to say a representative of when you're sitting right here. So that's why I felt like I needed your name.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. And while we give our members on WebEx a little bit of time to access that, I just want to confirm that there's no public in the El Dorado room.
There's no comment on this side.
All right, perfect. And it appears we have no comment on WebEx. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you. Okay, we will move on to agenda item 5, which is the Bureau Operations Update and Discussion. And we'll, as we do every time, because there are so many subsections to 5, we'll take public comment after each subsection. So we'll start with 5A, the IT system project.
Wonderful. And we're joined by Jason Piccioni for this update.
Thank you, Chief Cochran. Hello, board members. My name is Jason Piccioni. I'm the Chief Information Officer for the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Bureau for Private Post-Secondary Education. As I've reported in previous meetings, updates are going to be short and concise, as we are doing the work that we told the board, the group, that we would do. I'd like to first talk about a couple of staff that have really pushed this effort forward. Tamika Garvin and Richie Barnard have, among others, please, the other staff involved as well, but some key folks from Private Post that are continuing to push this effort forward. in big ways, as well as Brian Leggett from the Department of Consumer Affairs. So we're doing the work as we said we were going to, for a conversion from the previous system, aimed targeted for October of this year. This update would probably end there, if not for one little tweak. This effort that we are undertaking has support from our vendor, a contracted vendor. That contract needed to be renewed or redone in the May timeframe, a couple of months past, and due to the state of the budget, we were leadership and myself were attempting to be fiduciarily responsible and assess if we needed to refine or continue with the investment in this effort as planned or with some kind of modification. So that analysis took us a minute, and we attempted to make sure that we addressed all of the issues that could come up before we committed more private post resources to this effort. Ultimately, it was decided to continue with this investment. That contract delay was 3 months. So the end of this story is that the October timeframe for this conversion becomes the beginning of January timeframe, a month per month delay for the contract. The contract is at its in its last phases right now, and we should have contractor support again at the beginning or mid-September. So we're continuing to do the work, the same scope, the same aim and target as we've presented before, which is a little bit of a schedule delay due to budget analysis and vendor contract renewal. That's the end of that update. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions from the committee members? Okay, hearing none, we will open up item 5A for public comment, the IT system project.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and while we wait for WebEx, just to confirm, there is no public in the El Dorado room?
No comment from this room.
Perfect, thank you. And it appears there are no requests on WebEx. Would you like me to close that Q&A feature?
Yes, please, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 5B, which is the licensing unit.
Morning, members. Greg Donkerbrook, licensing chief for the Bureau. During the last quarter, the licensing unit has continued working on the quality of our application reviews while also ensuring timeliness for our institutions. As always, we continue to look at our data as a source for making decisions around process and procedures for all of our applications. If any of you have any suggestions, I would always welcome them, or ideas for future data reporting as we continue to examine and dig into all of our data points. Next slide, please. This first slide, you guys saw it for the first time during our last committee meeting. It shows all of our pending applications that currently reside within the Bureau. For this committee meeting, I'm just going to highlight our fiscal year to date numbers, and that we've approved 71 more applications this fiscal year than we did last year. So it's really good to see. Next slide, please. Next slide presents our application processing timeframes across all of our application types. This fiscal year, our total days to approve across the board are slightly up over last year. However, this is due to us approving and completing several applications that have been pending or under review for a substantial amount of time with the Bureau. Ebony will actually speak to a lot of this during her unit update. As we look into our quarterly approval timeframe data on the whole, we do continue to see improvement and trending in the right direction for most of our application types. As I said, we have been working diligently on approving and completing many of our oldest applications, and this is skewing the data upward slightly. And again, we are continuously striving to complete timely and efficient reviews of all our applications. I am happy to report, we alluded to it last committee meeting, we no longer have a queue in licensing. At this time, all of our applications that are received containing all required documentation will be assigned out for review. Our oldest full application right now is from October of 2020. We are currently going back and forth with them on a deficiency response from the institution. And then our oldest renewal application is from July of 2020, and we are waiting on some updated signatures from new owners of the institution. Next slide has our statewide population. We've got 1,814 locations, 971 of those are main locations, 344 branches, and 499 satellites. Of those, 425 are by means of accreditation, 533 are full non-accredited approvals. We have 1 conditional approval, 27 provisionals, and 113 out-of-state registrations. On our workshops, in April, we had 41 registrants and 46 participants. May, we had 60 registrants and 45 participants, and June, 44 and 23. This year, we've seen a significant increase in the number of participants in our workshops, and for the most part has been reflected in increased quality in the applications being received by the Bureau. Most notably is this fiscal year, we received 63 non-accredited applications, which is almost double the number we received last fiscal year. At this time, I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Greg. Any questions or comments from the committee members?
Yes, I have a question. This is Joseph. Greg, can you speak to any potential positive impact that the new IT system launch expected in January would have on the time to review and approve applications?
Well, we're hoping long-term that it will help streamline a lot of our deficiency and notification processes. You know, one of the items that extends the length of review is the back and forth between the institution and the Bureau. Hopefully, the new IT system will allow us to know when a school has submitted new information through online. Again, we also might have to work through what functionality will be in place as soon as the system rolls out. But ideally, it will not only help with notifications, communication between us and the institutions, but also from a data reporting standpoint, we'll be able to dig in and drill down a little bit more than some of the tracking mechanisms we have in place right now as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Okay, thank you, Greg. We'll now open up item 5B, the licensing report, for public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. And then while we wait for WebEx, just to confirm if there's any public comment in the El Dorado room.
No comment or questions over here.
All right, perfect. And it appears there are no requests on WebEx. Would you like me to close that Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. We will move on to item 5C, the Quality of Education Report.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ebony Santee, and I am the Education Administrator with the Quality of Education Unit. And here's some updates for you. Next slide, please. I'm happy to say this will be the last time that you see this slide. We have no more schools in this 94885.1 category. So that ended with a total of 142 schools being either accredited, closed, exempt, or having surrendered their degree programs. I will say that we're currently doing a deeper dive into these schools and this population and looking at trends, and hopefully in a future meeting, be able to share some of that data on the schools that did become accredited and those that were not successful. So definitely looking forward to sharing that information with you in upcoming meetings. Next slide, please. Currently, these are our schools pursuing accreditation under 94885.5. Small changes from our last meeting. 22 are still currently accredited. We have one more school that is now closed or expired. Still 2 exempt institutions. 18 schools have already surrendered their degree programs. We have one more school has now had their degree suspended, and we're at 27 currently pursuing accreditation for a total of 94 schools. Next slide, please. Just as a total, we have 209 institutions that have pursued or are still pursuing accreditation. This is a breakdown of those numbers between those who have already obtained it, become exempt, closed, surrendered, or suspended their programs. And this is a breakdown of the institutions and the accreditors that they have chose. So WASC Senior being our largest, tracks close with 13 schools, and DAC rounds up the top 3. I did want to take a moment to kind of touch on what Greg had said earlier and also give some extra kudos to our team, with continued collaboration with licensing, review of our internal process, and an uptick in participation with the licensing workshops. We just had a really great batch of applications and working really well together. In QEU alone, we have 41 apps in our queue, and all of those are, the oldest is from January of 2024. So I just huge shout out to the senior and ed specialists in the unit, as well as our collaboration with licensing as well. Just really proud of the work that we're doing and continuing to be more efficient and effective in those reviews. So that is all I have for you today. Open for any questions. Thank you.
Open it up to questions from the committee. I just had one quick question. I know you said we won't see the 94885.1 schools. I'm curious, you said there's still a few that are seeking accreditation. Is there a deadline for them? And you might have told me this before and I just don't remember, but is there a time by which they have to have obtained accreditation?
No, so I don't know, maybe I misheard, but there aren't any more of those schools 94885 seeking. They've either accredited, suspended, surrendered, expired, or exempt. So there are no more schools in that bucket.
Sorry, for both on the slide where you said there was on the 94885.5 schools, there's still a few that are pursuing accreditation there.
Correct. So that's continual. That's under our provisional approval process. So those, as schools become approved and seek to offer degree programs, they will be under that timeline of 2 years to become pre-accredited or candidates and 5 years to become fully accredited. And that's barring any extensions, which the regulations allow for a total of 5-year extension, whether that's for pre-accreditation or full accreditation status.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is Joseph. I have a question of clarification. You mentioned that the oldest queued QOE application is, or analysis is from January of this year?
In our queue, yes.
And is that queued in as much as it has not yet been assigned to an analyst, or it
Correct.
is, okay, it has not yet been assigned. Okay. Got it. Well, congratulations on the progress, and keep going. Well done.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from committee members? Okay, hearing none, we'll open it up for public comment on item 5C, the quality of education report. Thank you, Evan.
All right, this is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and just confirming there is no public in the El Dorado room.
There is no comment or questions.
All right, perfect. And it appears there are no requests on WebEx. Would you like me to close that Q&A feature?
Yes, please. All right, we're moving on to item 5D, the annual report update.
Good morning, members of the committee. I'm pleased to report that the annual report unit remains fully staffed. Next slide. The 2023 annual report covering the 2023 calendar year is due December 1st, August 2024. Institutions have been able to begin submitting their reports as of August 1st, 2024. To ensure all institutions are aware, notifications were sent to both the institution's physical address and the mailing address if it were different from the physical address. Additionally, we sent an email to the person who submitted the 2022 annual report. So we have tried to provide information to all of the institutions that this report is due December 1st. I do want to remind all institutions to please verify and update any changes to the institution's contact information, which includes changes to a physical address, a mailing address, agent for process, custodian of records, with our licensing unit as soon as possible. Keeping this information current is essential for the Bureau to maintain smooth communication and ensure compliance. Next slide. The 2023 annual report submission does need to include the following components: the annual report data, the school performance fact sheets, the catalog, enrollment agreements, and graduate identification data. All of those components are submitted through the online portal. The financial statements, which must be mailed to the Bureau and need to be addressed to the annual report unit, must be received by December 1st of this year. Next slide. The Bureau continues to offer school performance fact sheet workshops to assist institutions in understanding our laws and regulations. These workshops are conducted online and in an interactive format. I do encourage all institutions to take advantage of these sessions to ensure compliance and clarity of the Bureau's laws. The upcoming workshops are one later this month, August 30th, September 27th, October 25th, and November 15th. Institutions may register online at the Bureau's website. And lastly, a big thank you to the ARU team for their hard work. They are a very, very small team, but they have been really effective in what they've been doing. And that concludes my report for annual reports. If there are any questions from the committee.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Do you go by Elizabeth or Liz?
Both.
Both. Okay. Well, thank you. Any questions or comments from the committee? Okay. Hearing none, we will open up item 5D, the annual report, for public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and just confirming that there is no public in the El Dorado room.
There's no comment or questions.
All right, perfect. And it appears there are no requests on WebEx. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. We will now move on to item 5E, the compliance and discipline report.
Great, thank you. I am pleased to share that both the compliance and discipline teams are now fully staffed. Since our last advisory committee, we've welcomed Ian Powers, Dawn DeBorba, and Amanda Hebert to the team. And our final hire will be joining us later this month. So I'm very pleased about that. Next slide. In Q4 of the 23-24 fiscal year, the Bureau conducted 92 compliance inspections, which brought our totals for the 23-24 fiscal year to 323 inspections completed. This includes 235 announced inspections and 88 unannounced inspections. This is a slight increase in the number of inspections completed in the prior fiscal year. Next slide. This is just a visual representation of the inspections by type. Next slide. When we look at the inspection results, 87 inspections required no further action. However, 102 inspections resulted in a notice to comply being issued, which allows institutions to correct minor violations. And 134 were referred to enforcement for action, which can include a citation with a fine, an order of abatement, or other disciplinary action. Our latest inspection results reflect significant progress in our oversight efforts driven by recent enhancements to our business processes. These changes in our approach are helping us better support institutions in meeting high standards and continuously improving their practices. Next slide. To help institutions better understand our laws and regulations, the Bureau continues to offer compliance workshops. These are held monthly and conducted online in an interactive format. The next workshops are currently scheduled for September 19th, October 16th, and November 7th. I again encourage all institutions to participate, and they may register online at the Bureau's website. Next slide. Moving on to our discipline update. In fiscal year 23-24, we took several significant enforcement actions. This includes 4 cases where accusations were formally filed, leading to a mix of adjudications. Specifically, we had 1 revocation due to a default decision where the institution did not respond to our filing, and 3 cases resolved through stipulations, which resulted in 2 revocations and 1 surrender. While the number of our outcomes has decreased compared to previous years, it's important to note that we currently have more cases pending at the Attorney General's office than in recent years. This increase in pending cases is due to the delay in adjudicating our cases is due to ongoing negotiations and some delays in hearing dates. These factors have contributed to slower resolution of our cases, but they also reflect our thorough and careful approach to enforcement. Next slide. For enforcement actions resulting from a statement of issues, which is filed due to an appeal of a denied application, we had 5 actions taken in the 23-24 fiscal year. Next slide. We completed 1 emergency decision and 2 automatic suspensions in fiscal year 2023-24. Next slide. And as of June 30th, 2024, we have 24 cases pending disciplinary action at the Attorney General's office, with 12 of them being currently filed and awaiting adjudication. Next slide. Lastly, the Bureau issued 88 citations in Q4, which brought our totals for the 23-24 fiscal year to 277 citations issued, which was an increase of over 84% from the prior fiscal year. And I would like to commend both the compliance and discipline team for their efforts in surpassing our benchmarks set in previous years. Next slide. And then lastly, this is just a reminder that the Bureau does post all of the disciplinary actions by month, and those actions can be found at the link in the slide. And that will conclude my report for both compliance and discipline, if there are any questions from the committee.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from committee members?
I have a few questions. This is Robin Smith. Thank you so much for this report. This is so helpful. I have some questions about the inspection slide. Number one, I'm really happy to see that the inspections are the number of unannounced inspections are going up from last year. And my question is, how does the Bureau target unannounced inspections? What criteria do you use to decide which schools will receive those?
By nature of our law, inspections are required every 5 years, a minimum of one unannounced and one announced. So it kind of is cyclical. And so although if the next inspection due is an announced inspection or unannounced, we can have the option to identify a different type of inspection depending on other information that we have at our disposal. Currently, we are seeing the trend to more unannounced inspections, so you probably will see that rise in this upcoming fiscal year.
Yeah, and do any of the unannounced inspections happen, based on complaints or investigations unrelated to the one required every 5 years?
Yes, we do review other factors, including information in our reports that we receive, complaints from other units, and other information provided by other regulatory bodies as well.
And I'm just curious, is there a way to report that? I don't know if there is, but if there's a way to report sort of the number that come from complaints or information the Bureau receives and the ones that are just sort of because you have to do them every 5 years.
I don't know that that is currently tracked, but that is something that we can look at for future reports.
Yeah, it would just be interesting because it would be helpful to know sort of how often the Bureau does these kinds of inspection based on information they get from student complaints or other kinds of complaints versus the ones that they do sort of just because they're required, because it is an important enforcement function and would be really helpful to see that. I'm also concerned that the numbers seem really small there compared to fiscal years 2019 and 20 and 21. Do you have any idea why there's only 88 so far this year? Obviously, that may go up a little, but compared to those two fiscal years, it seems pretty low. Is there a reason that is for the unannounced inspections?
I think for the prior fiscal years, especially during COVID and after, it was a lot more difficult to conduct unannounced inspections just due to the nature of the state shutting down. And so there were more announced inspections during that time. But I do believe that from what I've seen, our unannounced inspections will be increasing in this current fiscal year, and they're currently increasing, or we're increasing in the most recent fiscal year. Also to note, complaints that the Bureau receives are also investigated by our investigations team, which I believe is the next report. And so oftentimes in lieu of an inspection, investigations goes out to identify any potential violations of our laws as well. So they are being addressed. It may be done through an investigation versus an inspection.
Got it. That's really helpful to know. And then I have a separate question on the inspection results page where you had the results by let me look at it real quick because now I'm forgetting. By no further action required, notice to comply issued, and referral for enforcement action. I'm wondering if in the future you could share with us what kind of inspections those came out of, whether it was unannounced or announced. I don't know. Again, I'm just curious about whether the unannounced inspections have a bigger impact in terms of eventual action by the Bureau, or whether it really is sort of coming out of both types of inspections, announced and unannounced.
I do think we are able to track that, and I believe we would be able to present that in a future meeting.
Thank you. That would be really helpful. Again, thank you so much for this information.
Welcome.
Hello, Elizabeth. This is Joseph. I had a couple questions for you as well. Starting on that same slide where Robin left off on inspection results. So there's obviously a material change in the number of notice to comply and even referrals for enforcement action compared to prior years, and that is an increase. You alluded to this earlier, but I'm curious for more color commentary if you have it. Do you attribute that to a change in school behavior, or a change in the practices of schools, or a change in the maybe diligence or attention to detail of your of the inspectors?
I actually attribute it to a change in our business process that better aligns with what is required in our laws and regulations as it pertains to issuing
what do you mean
notices
by
to comply. Meaning a notice to comply is issued when the Bureau goes out and identifies a minor violation. And we were doing institutions a disservice by allowing them to potentially correct violations without documenting them. And so now that our process is better aligned with what a notice to comply requires, we're able to better monitor potential noncompliance inspections year over year, or each time we conduct an inspection with an institution. And the notice to comply does allow the institution to correct the minor violations before any kind of disciplinary or enforcement action is taken.
Sure. So I recognize this is a broad generalization, but if you look over the last several years, your instinct tells you that in prior years, there were instances with it should have been a notice to comply. They maybe even were resolved by the institution, but they were done informally and they were not documented, and that's been corrected in the most recent fiscal year. Is that accurate?
That would be correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. And now focusing on the notices to comply, as you mentioned, these are minor issues that the college has an opportunity to resolve. In complaints and in other areas, sometimes there's like a representative sample of the most common of those. I think it would be useful, particularly given the increase in volume. I'm here to see what are the top notice to comply issues, like what are the top 5 in terms of frequency that those come up, A. And B, if you could also, is it self-evident that if it's listed here as a notice to comply, that the school did resolve the issue? Or is this just that a notice to comply was issued? Because it'd be good to see of those, how many were resolved, to satisfaction. I'm assuming that you have a way of closing that loop.
Yes, this slide only indicates how many were issued, not an indicator of whether or not it was resolved. If the institution fails to comply with that notice to comply, then the Bureau will pursue that as noncompliance and potentially issue a citation. That is not reflected in this slide. I will say that many of the minor violations are, updates to the website or small updates to a catalog. And I do believe that we track that. So potentially I can provide that information in the future. I would just need to do more research.
Cool. Yeah, please consider that, and also please consider a cure rate of the notice to comply. How many of those were resolved? As would be good visible proof of the effectiveness of your inspections as well. Thanks.
You're welcome.
And this is Robin again. Thank you, Joseph. I think that's a good idea to have like the top 5 reasons that there's a notice to comply. I think that would also be helpful for referral for enforcement actions, if that's possible. And then the other question I have too is, given that we have this fee issue, pending and that we have to deal with, it might be helpful to know how many of these are attributable to accredited versus unaccredited institutions, just to see if there's sort of a lopsided, if there's more unaccredited schools, for example, that sort of gives a reason to maybe raise the fees for those schools. It would just be very helpful to sort of know where the most burden is on the Bureau and how and those expenditures. So I'm just wondering if that would be something you could do as well.
I will definitely take that back and look into it further.
Thanks so much.
Thank you both. Any further questions from the committee members? Okay, then we will open up item 5E, the compliance and discipline reports, for public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and then just confirming we have no public in the El Dorado room.
No comment or questions over here.
All right, and it appears there are no requests on WebEx. Would you like me to close that Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. All right, we will move on to item 5F, which is the complaint and investigation report.
Good morning. My name is Daniel Rankel. I'm the chief over our complaints and investigations unit. Good morning to Chair Farron and the members of the committee. I would like to start with an update on the unit staffing. I'm happy to say that we are fully staffed as a unit. I talked about at the last ACM, putting in the effort to make sure that was done and the time that was spent on that. So we are now focusing on training and developing our new team members and current ones as well. Next slide, please. So this is the complaints received for the fiscal year. In quarters 3 and 4, we received 237 and 250 complaints respectively, which is slightly higher than the 217 and 199 that we received in quarters 1 and 2. However, overall, the incoming complaints have remained relatively consistent throughout the fiscal year. Next slide, please. This is the complaints received by school. So we received a total of 903 complaints this fiscal year. Overall, we saw a higher percentage of unapproved complaints and a lower percentage of non-jurisdiction complaints compared to last fiscal year. Everything else stayed relatively the same. Next slide, please. So this is our closed complaints. So in fiscal year 22-23, we completed 757 investigations. In fiscal year 23-24, we completed 1,110, which is a 46% increase in just one fiscal year. However, we wanted to look deeper into these numbers and decided to do a comparison after excluding the complaints closed at intake. Excluding closures at intake in fiscal year 22-23, we completed 465 investigations. In fiscal year 23-24, we completed 839 investigations. This is an 80% increase in completing investigations, excluding those closed at intake. At the last ACM, I explained how we dedicated a substantial amount of time in filling our vacant positions, and we anticipated a return on that investment in the months to come. Well, we are definitely beginning to see significant returns. Next slide, please. So this is a breakdown of the days to close investigations. As I've stated previously, we are continuously evaluating our pending cases to ensure we find balance between quickly addressing our highest priority cases while also making significant effort to address our aging cases. So this is a breakdown there. Next slide, please. This is a breakdown of the cases closed, our case closure disposition for 23-24. So compared to fiscal year 22-23, the number of discipline referrals remain consistent. We have also seen a slight increase in the percentage of investigations closed as no confirmed violation or insufficient evidence. I will say that as we work through many of the older cases, there are added challenges when investigating these age cases. And this is our top 5 allegations referred to discipline. These unapproved institutions continue to be our top allegation. Next slide, please. In fiscal year 22-23, duplicate entry was our highest category for cases closed at intake at 72 for the fiscal year. That number dropped significantly to just 31 in fiscal year 22-23. As I've mentioned before, this is a testament to the increased communication from our intake team with complainants. Next slide, please. This is our pending caseload age. I fully understand and share the urgency to address our aging cases. We continue our efforts to tackle the aging caseload through increasingly efficient and thorough investigations. So far, we've seen significant progress while also identifying areas for improvement. At the end of fiscal year 22-23, we had 645 pending complaints less than 1 year old. That number dropped to 377 for fiscal year 23-24. Conversely, for the cases over 1 year old, the number of pending cases increased slightly from 180 at the end of fiscal year 22-23 to 240 at the end of 23-24. So we are seeing some, again, both significant progress, while there's still areas for improvement. Next slide, please. This is our pending caseload count tracker. After peaking at 850 cases in April of 2023, we have now brought the pending caseload down to the low 600s. In the last quarter alone, we saw a significant decrease. Again, we are beginning to see a return on our investment. Next slide, please. And this is a snapshot of the positive impact on students in fiscal year 23-24. Next slide. And I would like to end by thanking my extraordinary team. I am truly grateful for your dedication and the care for the work that you do. So thank you. And that concludes my presentation. I welcome any questions from the committee.
Thank you, Daniel. Any questions or comments from the committee members?
This is Robin Smith again. I just want to say thank you to all the folks that work on those complaints. They are just so important, and certainly the complaints that we've referred over, you've acted on and had a big impact on the students. So I just wanted to thank you for your continuing work and your dedication to bringing down those numbers and acting quickly on the most important complaints. So thanks a lot.
And Daniel, this is Joseph. I'd like to again commend you on the good work that you've done since leading that division, especially most of all, top of the list is being fully staffed. That's great. Hopefully the new staff members came with shackles to keep them in their chairs. But really, music to our ears, I'm sure, is the full committee hearing so many high value units being staffed. And your last 2 months performance on closing tickets is directly indicative of that. So kudos, keep up the great momentum. There's still obviously a backlog that you're working through, so there's a lot of work to do, but you appear positioned to do it well. So very, very pleased with your progress. Also, I would want to just highlight into our view that we couldn't see the percentage exactly, but it was good that we also had fewer student complaints as an industry. I think it's a positive development. In this most recent fiscal year, we had a decline over the average in the last 2 years. And so good news all around. Thank you.
I was just going to echo that the second to last slide about the pending caseload count. I mean, it just shows that you need time, right? Like it's not going to shift right away, but that you've done a really good job of giving yourself the time to get staffed and to get the processes in place. So I think that is a really telling slide. And we've like slowly seen it now. It like made a bigger impact. So it's pretty cool to see that. Any other comments or questions from committee members? Okay, then we will open it up for public comment on item 5F, the complaint and investigation report.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. And then just to confirm, there is no public in the El Dorado room.
There are no comments or questions over here.
All right, perfect. And it appears there are no requests on WebEx as well. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. All right, we are moving on to item 5G, the Office of Student Assistance and Relief Outreach Report.
Well, thank you, Chair Farron and board members. Good morning. I'm happy to be here and give you an update on OSAR's outreach activities. So before I jump into the actual charts, I did want to, and go through my normal readout, I did want to say that I'm happy to report that this quarter, we were finally able to follow through on Board Member Delgado's recommendation to explore connecting our informed choice outreach efforts with the foster youth population, specifically those who are exiting the system and potentially considering post-secondary education as a possible next step. So I know you had made that recommendation a couple of times unresponded to, so finally found the bandwidth to do that. So I'm very happy to say that. So you don't have to say that again, Melanie. So we recently had our first meet and greet meeting with leadership over there, and we talked about what each other's agencies do and how we could possibly collaborate, and we're at the early stages of doing that. But I will say that our reach out to them was very enthusiastically received. They see the same connection points that you foresaw, and so hopefully in the future we'll be able to report on some of those activities moving forward. I'll also say that I probably failed to mention when you made that recommendation that it wasn't completely off of OSAR's radar. We have worked with this community sort of indirectly in the past through local CASA support agencies who've attended our events and things like that, and been involved in ensuring that foster youth in the local geographic area was aware of our workshops and stuff like that, but never to this extent potentially in terms of a more direct collaboration. So that's that. So moving on to chart A, looking at all of these charts, they're now obviously reflective of the entire fiscal year's activity. So the first one shows our informed choice outreach for prospective students. So fairs, military events, workshops, high school presentations. We're starting to work with a couple of charter schools as well that I think you'll see pop up in the future as well. So that's the nature of these types of activities. We had 20 such events. If you scroll through to the last page of the chart, please, and I met with approximately 2,200 students. I believe 2,257 is the number in that space this fiscal year. I would say the one worth highlighting in this quarter of new information, this most recently closed quarter, is the Jazzy Beauty Trade Show. That's an event that the Board of Bargaining Cosmetology has connected us with. It includes both, other parts of the cosmetology industry, but also schools and BBC participates, and we participate, and they have a lot of prospective students that are there as well. So last year was our first time, so it always feels good to get invited to something for that second time. Always nervous when you do one and don't hear back from them. So it was glad to hear back from them, and they asked for us to participate, and we had even more higher attendance this year. So continuing to look for mining for opportunities where there's outreach for potential sort of like industry specific space seems to be, those attendees are often particularly enthusiastic and have already sort of made that first decision that this is an area they're interested in. So I'm looking for more opportunities there as well. Moving on to chart B, we have for the entire fiscal year, our school closures, branch closures, and program closures. Ones where we've had, and I think I probably should say this qualifier in the past as well, these are ones where we've had, through our efforts and collaboration, sufficient information to construct an outreach message and get resources out that students can benefit from. That in of itself is often a challenge, just like getting a roster that has the correct contact information, getting all the facts and information that we need to construct a meaningful outreach. So that sort of is a factor in the overall number as well. But we did do 26 such email outreach campaigns this year and reached approximately 1,400 students in that manner. And then those efforts often lead to stuff you see in the future charts, the one-on-ones, calls, and emails, and then things that aren't necessarily captured in the charts as well are also outcomes of those outreach efforts, which are, referrals to custodians to get the students' records, outside partners when sometimes they're a better resource for the student based on what their needs are. So, but again, the challenge is often getting the rosters and information we need to be able to do that. In chart C, again, funneling down a little bit more are ones where through those efforts and student preference surveys, et cetera, there you go, chart C, that the best next step is to actually do a workshop, which is, happening a little bit less, or at least sort of plateauing or flatlining, it seems, over the last couple of years, sort of post-COVID, as student, especially taking into consideration through our survey tools and stuff, student preference. A lot of times one-on-one appointments or in-person appointments are a little bit more what students want, but when the numbers justify it and or student preference, and we just have the bandwidth and capacity to do it and it makes sense to do it, then we'll do workshops. And we did 5 this year and connected with approximately 100 students that way. And then before I highlight UAV, if you can go to chart D as well, which is our phone calls and emails. Actually, I will do it now. So I was going to say both in chart B and C, University of Antelope Valley was referenced and had fairly high numbers. It was definitely an impactful closure for us to both construct and deliver on outreach services for students, given a lot of different factors. One would be just the size of the impacted population, about 450 students, and also just a lot of other things that were going on with that school. But it involved us coordinating with the Department of Education because they were a Title IV school, with CalVet because they had Title 38 veteran students enrolled. We worked closely with the local community college as well, both in terms of the logistics of hosting an on-site event, and then also their presentation as a potential landing spot for some of those students. They had a pretty big nursing program with students in varying cohorts, varying sort of, completion dates. So needing landing spots in and around that Antelope Valley area. So we worked closely with the Board of Vocational Nursing on that. The school also had international students, so we were working with the Student Exchange Visitor Program on residency issues and Homeland Security issues. It was just a very tricky closure that required a lot of outside partnerships and resources, and we feel like it's been pretty successful in that, it also turned into a lot of the phone calls that you're looking here and the emails on the next chart, and also just a lot of guidance and assistance provided to students at a pretty stressful time. So that one's worth highlighting. The other thing you'll notice both in chart D and E is a high bump, if you look closely, in student loan relief assistance here on chart E and on STRIF, and also on STRIF as a category in June for our phone calls as well. So I just wanted to, proactively say, that is a result of not in full, but a large part of that is a result of a special project that we assisted the Student Tuition Recovery Fund unit with where it was related to STRIF claimants who had pending borrower's defense claims. So I will let Yvette in her presentation next on the STRIF unit talk more about that. But again, so I talk a lot about external collaboration, but that was a key internal collaboration that we worked on with the STRIF unit. So going on to chart F, last thing, our one-on-one appointments. So again, that March bump there was certainly UAV was a huge part of that, and now we've kind of got back into our normal mode. But this is really the first fiscal year where we captured this, built it into our data elements, started thinking about it more in terms of how we promote this opportunity, and like I said, survey for this as a preference as the best way to get students resources. Do some internal training on case management and stuff like that. So we're seeing the fruits of that here, and hopefully even more so moving forward. I'll also say in closing, I also, like other chiefs who've spoken earlier, I want to thank my team as well for all of their hard work and diligence to sort of, a lot of times at the end of the fiscal year, you're doing a lot of reporting, both internally and externally, and just doing a lot of reflecting on your total numbers and accomplishments, whether it be a fiscal year or a calendar year. And so my team, did a lot of this year with a lot of challenges in terms of key position vacancies, both temporary and others. And so we are definitely the little engine that could mode this year, as we've been forced to be a couple of times in OSAR's history. But we work towards, are working towards getting fully staffed as well. But a lot of the numbers you see, like I said, are reflective of a time where we were not necessarily fully staffed, but definitely a fully engaged team. So thank you to my team for that. That's my presentation. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you, Scott. Any questions or comments from the committee members?
This is Melanie Delgado, and I just wanted to commend you for initiating efforts to reach out to the foster youth. They're so important and too often overlooked, and I think it's great that you guys are making those efforts and that you guys are connected with CASA. That's a really good resource. So thank you.
Thank you.
This is Robin Smith. I just also want to thank you, Scott, and all of your staff. I worked on this stuff back when there was no OSAR, and the response of the Bureau to school closures was not always the best and most coordinated, and it's so improved. It's so amazing that you have such a coordinated effort to quickly respond to school closures and help students who are so upset and really facing difficult times. So I just want to thank you. I think you've done an incredible job, and it's so nice to have this level of data as well to see all the work you're doing. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Robin.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to public comment for item 5G, the Office of Student Assistance and Relief Report, or OSAR.
All right, this is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. And just to confirm, we have no public in the El Dorado room.
There are no comments or questions.
Perfect, thank you. And it appears there are no requests on WebEx as well. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Sure, thank you. We will move on to item 5H, which is the Student Tuition Recovery Fund report.
Good morning. My name is Yvette Johnson, and I'm the Chief of the Student Tuition Recovery Fund Unit. We're also known as STRIF. First, I would like to give an update on our staffing. During the past calendar year, we had a decrease in the number of staff that we had. We had staff that moved on for promotional opportunities within the Bureau and other state agencies. And I'm pleased to announce that just this month, we were able to fill 2 of those vacancies. Yay! We have Spencer Hankey, who is one of our new Associate Governmental Program Analysts, and Dean Horrell, who was promoted from our office technician to a staff services analyst. We're happy to have them both on board and we are currently getting them fully trained in the area of STRIF. And we hope that we'll see some changes in what we're able to produce. We're also happy to say that we have, well, not actually happy about this one. We actually have one more vacancy to fill since Dean was promoted. We have an office technician position to fill, and we are currently in the recruitment process for this position. And we're using this opportunity as our team has changed. We're using this opportunity to look at ways that we can make more efficiencies in our processes. Another item that I'm pleased to announce is that, as we mentioned before, we're in the production stage of the STRIF video. It says that it's on. Okay, sorry about that. I was just told that my video wasn't on. As mentioned before, we're in the production stage of the STRIF video that will help students complete their STRIF applications. The voiceover work has been completed, and we have also updated our STRIF website to include the link to the STRIF online portal. Now, instead of just words and a link, you'll see a large button that states Student Tuition Recovery Fund Application Portal, so it's easily found. As Scott spoke about earlier, the STRIF unit, with the assistance of OSAR, began the process of reaching out to students who had filed borrower's defense claims as well as STRIF claims. The Bureau reached out to these students to get updates on the status of their borrower's defense applications. And we are unable to process our STRIF applications until we determine what the status of their borrower's defense is, because we're unable to determine what the economic loss is. But over the time, the Bureau has reached out to the students, and some of the things that we found during our outreach to these students is that some of the students asked that their claims be closed because I guess they've been taken care of. And then we've been told that the borrower's defense applications was denied. So that will go into our queue for our STRIF application so that we can look at those and determine whether or not there is an economic loss that the STRIF should be refunding. And then the majority of the ones that we spoke to, the loans were discharged. So that gives us the opportunity to go ahead and complete the processing of their STRIF applications. So in the process of doing this outreach, we also ask that the students provide us with documentation to show what the outcome of their borrower's defense is. So that way we can actually begin to look at each claim individually and then process them accordingly. Next slide, please, Richie. So moving on to our statistics. So far for, so far for this fiscal year, we received for 22-23, the fourth quarter, we received 62 claims. As you can see, we still continue to receive more claims via Connect than via paper, which is great. So we're saving a few trees there. Okay, next slide, please. On our claims closed, we have 42 claims that were approved. We have one claim that was deemed ineligible because they didn't experience one of our qualifying events to be eligible for STRIF. We have 51 claims that were denied and 0 claims that we were unable to contact. And as always, that is due to the diligent effort of the staff to reach out to all those students that they're working with. Next slide, please. So this is the status where our claims currently lie. We have 106 We had 106 claims that were in the manager's queue for review. We had 82 active claims where the analysts are actually working on them. We have 37 claims where the analysts sent notifications out to the students to ask them for additional information for them to be for the analysts to be able to process the claim. And we have 564 claims in queue. Next, please. So this next slide shows you the status of our Student Tuition Recovery Fund. We have currently, as a pending payment with the State Controller's Office, $366,798.18 with 24 claims. And so far this year, we've paid out $696,892.55 with 42 claims. And our balance currently stands at $34,563, $563,399.39. That was a lot to say at once. All right. Next slide, please. And this is the slide of our large impact closures, which, as you can see, are the Corinthian schools for the majority. All right. Next slide, please. All right. That's all I have for right now. And I welcome questions from the committee.
Thanks, Yvette. Any comments or questions from committee members?
Hi, Yvette. This is Joseph. I have a quick question. On the STRIF claims, those that are current as of June 30th, there were 564 in queue.
Yes.
Could you, that means as yet not assigned to an analyst, correct?
That is correct.
Do you have a sense of the date range of those? Like what's the oldest or maybe a median date of submission for those? And if not now, maybe in a future meeting you could include.
Yeah, I don't have that with me I don't have that right now, what the oldest claim is.
Yeah, that's a material number in queue. And so I think it would, like with the other departments, it would be helpful to see what's the age of that. A characterization like the oldest and the median would be good.
Okay, you can do that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joseph. I was going to ask the same question. And thank you so much, Yvette. I'm so glad you all are staffed up finally. It's great news. And a big help to you.
Yes, definitely.
One other question I had is you had the list of what's happened to claims, and you had 0 were unable to, for denial, 0 you were unable to contact, 1 was ineligible, but 51 were denied.
Yes.
Can you tell, do you have information about why they were denied, or can you provide sort of more information about what the most common reasons for denial are if it's not ineligibility or inability to contact?
Yes. Right now, what we're finding is that students are submitting claims past their eligibility date. The STRIF has a 4-year period of time in which students can submit their claim, and they're not meeting that.
Okay, so it's beyond the statute of limitations basically for them on the claims. Okay. Were there any other significant categories? That's the main one.
That was the main one.
Okay. And do you know, were they a lot of Corinthian students, or is it all over the map?
They're not Corinthian students.
Oh, they aren't?
Because,
okay.
Yeah, because, with the law, it went back to 2010 that Corinthian students are eligible. I would say we had some that may have attended during like 2006, 2007, but that's not the majority of our claims in that area.
Got it. Thank you so much. That's really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I had the same question, Robin. So we're all of us are on the same page, apparently. Any other comments or questions from the committee members? Okay. Hearing none, I will open up item 5H, the STRIF report for public comment.
This is the moderator, at the direction of the committee. I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. And just to confirm, there is no public in the El Dorado room.
There are no comments or questions over here.
All right, perfect. And it appears there are no requests in WebEx. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you. And I think I was, thank you so much. I think I was inconsistent. So I just want to say thank you to Jason, Greg, Ebony, Elizabeth, Daniel, Scott, and Yvette for your reports. They were all really helpful, and I appreciate the engagement with committee recommendations and questions and all of that. It's very helpful. We'll move on to item 6, which is status updates and discussion on regulatory proposals.
And I'm just going to take a moment to interject to introduce to the committee Parker Strohmeyer, who is our new regulation specialist at the Bureau. You may remember him from his amazing updates on Student Tuition Recovery Fund and our progress with Connect, but he has entered into a new and incredibly important role with us. So just congratulations to Parker, and I'm excited for his first update to you in this capacity.
Thank you for the introduction, Debbie. I appreciate that. As you mentioned, my name is Parker Strohmeyer, and I'm the new regulatory specialist here at the Bureau. I've been with the state since 2020 during the COVID pandemic, and have spent the entirety of my state career at Consumer Affairs in the Bureau for Private Postsecondary Education. I started as a staff services analyst in OSAR, and then was an AGPA in the Student Tuition Recovery Fund unit. And I went to school at UC Santa Cruz and majored in legal studies and politics. And so this is just really more of my field of study. So I did decide to rock a little banana slug lapel pin today. But I'm really excited to be here. I think that there's so much that we can do to, protect California consumers, California students. And I think that when, we utilize the tools and the resources and just some of the tremendously helpful people that we have here at DCA, that we're able to promulgate regulations that maximize our ability to protect Californians. So I am definitely looking forward to this role and to onboarding here in this position. If we go to the next slide. So the first thing is just some status updates for our DCA regulatory packages here at the Bureau. The first one, public institutions, is actually something that my predecessor, Dave Dumble, mentioned, was approved by the Office of Administrative Law just prior to our last advisory committee meeting. And so I'm happy to say that that became effective on May 13th, and it is effective as of July 1st, 2024. So that package is now effective. We also received approval for our signature requirements package, which just revised some of the requirements for the applications and the signature requirements around them. So that was approved on August 1st, 2024, and that will have an effective date of October 1st, 2024. The last status update is with our date of closure proposal. The comment period for this package ended on June 4th, 2024. The Bureau opted to withdraw this package from OAL so that we may post an additional 15-day comment period for a few changes that we made to this package for clarity and consistency purposes. So those are the status updates on our regulations at this time. Next slide, please. And then last, we just have some discussion on this proposed Section 100 change for removing 94874.1 from the application for verification of exempt status. This is not a major change to this regulatory section. It is just a minor cleanup to resolve this instance where a statute, AB 48, had an exemption in 94874.1 for regionally accredited schools. And that statute was repealed by its own language in subsection B as of January 1st, 2016. So in our regulatory language at 5 CCR section 71395, 9487 4.1 is still listed as an exemption in that regulatory text. So because this statute was repealed by its own language and actually has since been replaced by a new 9487 4.1 from AB 70 back on January 1st, 2021, we're able to go ahead and do a section 100 to just remove this reference to a repealed exemption. And we look forward to pursuing that and getting to work on that. So that's all that I have. I look forward to presenting to the committee in future meetings as well. And again, thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Parker, and welcome. As someone who also went to a school that had a nonviolent mascot from the 1960s, I greatly appreciate you repping the slugs today. I like it.
Slugs.
Yep. Any comments from the committee members?
My first question is for you, is what was the nonviolent mascot, Lee? I'm curious.
I was a proud Pomona Pitzer sage hen. So it's like a little, otherwise known as a thunder chicken. Very impressive and very threatening and imposing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do also have a quick question, Parker, for you. Mostly a question of curiosity, but the identifying date of closure that was working through the process had public comment, went to OAL, and then you mentioned that Bureau staff has drawn it back to make a correction or revision. What is the root cause of that? Was it a function of the public comment period, or was it somebody else internally that just found an issue that you wanted to clean up? Like, what was the root cause for that, pulling it back?
Most of our issues were just related to clarity and consistency. So, for example, one area where we refer to authorized representative, we said for the purposes of this section, whereas we actually use it in multiple sections. So we changed the word from section to article. Those are the example of changes just made for clarity and consistency purposes.
So they weren't material, and they came up from a staffing review. I mean, they were material, but they weren't substantive in context of changing the goalposts of what a date of closure.
Correct. The substance of the package itself is not changing. This is just for clarity and consistency.
Understood. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments from the committee members? Okay, hearing none, we'll open up item 6, status updates and regulation tracker for public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. And then just to confirm, if there are any public in the El Dorado room.
There are no comments or questions.
All right, and it appears there are no requests on WebEx as well. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. We are moving on to our last agenda item, which is item number 7, future agenda items. And this is an opportunity for committee members to propose any agenda items that they might like to see at a future meeting. Any suggestions, thoughts, comments from the committee? Hearing none, we can open up item 7 for public comment. This is an opportunity to comment on future agenda items.
All right, this is the moderator, and at the direction of the committee, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. And just to confirm if there's any public in the El Dorado room.
There are no comments.
All right, perfect. And it appears there are no requests on WebEx as well. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. And thank you both to the moderator and those of you in the El Dorado room for bearing with us through all of that. I appreciate your assistance. Hearing nothing else from the committee, our next meeting will be in November. I actually don't have the exact date. If anyone does and can say it out loud right now, that would be great. Otherwise, there will be an email and an announcement about when the next committee meeting is.
We can pull that up in just one second.
I was trying to scan through my email quickly and I couldn't get there in time.
I have it on my calendar, November 13th, if that's correct.
Okay, great. Just wanted to say that for the record. Right now it's scheduled for November 13th, so I'm sorry I didn't get to see you all in person, but we will see you all again on WebEx on November 13th. And thank you to everyone at the Bureau for your reporting today. It was really, really helpful and informative. Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, great meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thanks, bye-bye.
See y'all in a few months.